What is up, broskies? Welcome to the Local Cast podcast episode trace. Today we're going to be talking about the Ryzen Threadripper 3990X 64 core 128 thread processor from the one and only AMD. Okay, now for people who don't know much about processing power and computers in general, I'm going to try to dumb this down as much as possible. I don't expect a lot of feedback or support for this episode just because of the fact that not too many people know about it. But I'm just throwing this out here because this is a very revolutionary type processor that I just feel like it's just something to talk about. Tomorrow is something more relatable. I'm going to be having a friend that I'm going to be interviewing, and we're going to be talking about just music in general and like how music has progressed. So stay tuned for that one for tomorrow. It's the Valentine's Day episode, so that's pretty neat. Anyways, so starting off, this processor is like it's something else, because leading up to this, we had the Threadripper 2990WX, which was 32 cores, 64 threads, not 64 cores, but 64 threads. And that alone was just like, wow. That the processing power on that for the time last year was just amazing. And then this year we get the 3960X, which is 24 cores, 48 threads. And we were just like, whoa, that's pretty neat. And then like literally like the same day we got a 3970X, which is 32 cores, 64 threads. And we're like, there's no way that's the end of it, because the 90 SKU at the end of the last two numbers, the 90, that has to be met for this year for 3990X or 3990WX. And so we're thinking, yeah, 64 cores. People are thinking 64 cores, but there's also a possibility for 48 or 56, which are other two possible numbers that are not as big as 64. But then lo and behold, at CES in Las Vegas this year, back in January, a bunch of tech companies come together and they showcase stuff that's going to be previewed. Like one of my favorites, Cooler Master, showing off their cool cases and liquid coolers, their AIOs and fans and whatnot. And so I'm just like, wow, that's pretty neat. Corsair came out there, MSI, just a bunch of companies, AMD and Intel, of course. Then AMD was just like, you know what? You think that the 3960 and 3970X are pretty cool? Guess what? February 7th, 3990X, 64 cores, 2.9 gigahertz, with a boost clock of 4.3, 280 watts, based off of the Zen 2 7 nanometer lithography. Supports up to a terabyte of RAM, ECC support, 288 megabytes of cache, and it's insane. Like when that was announced, everyone was just haywire. Everybody was just like, whoa. And now the number one thing you're thinking is pricing. How much was this? Now, for people who don't know, just a quad core alone. Let's take a Ryzen 5 3400G. It's an APU, which means that there's integrated graphics, so you don't need a graphics card that's designated for that. So just that alone, which is quad core with 8 threads. Okay, just 4 cores, 8 threads compared to 64 with 128 threads. That alone is about $125. So this right here, the price. Newegg, which has the cheapest price, Newegg.com. I'm looking on PCPartPicker.com. $3,989.99. So yeah. So basically, the 3990X costs $39.90. And also on B&H, it's going for exactly $4,000. So for the cheapest price, go on Newegg for the $39.90. Although that's not really going to help you much to save that $10, because what are you going to use $10 for? Probably buy fan, I guess. Anyways, so benchmarking. This thing, of course, has impressed everybody, but everybody wants to know the performance and benchmarks, which of course makes sense. So basically, without further ado, if we go into cpu.userbench.com, userbenchmark.com is great for comparing CPU, GPU combos, just FPS overall, USB, flash drive performance, hard drive, SSD, graphics cards, RAM, and CPU, of course, but CPU and GPU are the most common ones. Now, if we compare a 3970X with a 3990X. Let's see here. 3990X. Oh, no, it doesn't come up. All right. How about this? We'll skip that. We'll skip that because for some reason it's not coming up right now. So how about this? So we're going to compare a 3970, which is just to give you an idea of the contender that we're putting up against the 3990X. We're going to be doing the 3970X, which is the 32-core 64-thread one. So we're going to put that up against the last year's Top King, the Threadripper 2990WX, which was also a 32-core 64-thread one. Now, if we look here, if you look at gaming, of course, they're more of like workstation heavy type processors. The 3970X costing $1950, the Threadripper 2990WX from last year costing just under $1,500. They still can be used for gaming. Of course, they'll work fine. Probably get well over 60 FPS, which is probably like what's desired, because consoles like Xbox and PlayStation and Switch probably get around 30 to 50. So gaming, of course, you'll see 3970X sitting at 94%, 75% for the 2990WX. Desktop, 95. So just the desktop, not workstation, desktop is sitting at 95% for the 3970X, while 2990X WX is sitting at a 76%. So it's beating out those two. Now workstation, this is where everything goes. Workstation on the 2990WX is 161%. So of course it's well over capable for any type of workstation, right? 3970X, 215%. Now, if you want to say, okay, we'll put it up against the 3960X, I will most likely do that for you right now. That one costs about $1,400, so about $450 less than the 3970X. Remember, this is 24 cores, 48 threads, and this is less amount of cores and threads than the 2990WX. But based off of lithography going from 12 nanometers to 7 nanometers, of course, there's going to be that performance jump, which effective speed goes up 26% for the 3960X, also, which beats the 2990X in all three categories. Gaming 94, 95 on desktop. For the 2990WX, it's 75 and then 76. Workstation is kind of a little closer. So if you want to use these for workstations, honestly, go for the 2990WX because it beats it. Because basically, when it comes to bang for buck, go for the 2990WX. Because with the workstation, it goes 161% versus the 3960, which goes to 178. But honestly, I mean, I would just pay that extra $72 for the 2990X WX. I mean, for the average user bench, when using single core, just using one core, the 3960 beats it. Okay, it's 24% faster, 26% faster on dual core, so only 2, 26% faster on quad core, and on octa core, which is 8, which is the most that you can test. So if you have anything that's more than 8 cores, then you're gonna have to just test it on 8 cores. So like a Ryzen 9 3950X, you're still gonna have to do that on an 8 core, even though there's 16 cores. That one got 31% faster. So it's beating in all of that. And overclock, it's still beating on there too, with 20% overall, going 19 on 1 core, 19 on 2, 19 on 4, and 22 on 8. Value, it's up 3%. So, of course, the 2990 WX is more popular in user rating, but cheaper. It's the price on the 3960X is 5% cheaper. But age-wise, now here's the thing. Age-wise, the 3960X, which just came out literally just a little over 2 months ago, is 88% more recent than the 17-month-old 2990WX. Not saying that I'm not dissing on the 2990WX. It's a great processor. It's still good. It still holds up. If you have it right now and you're thinking about upgrading to a 3960, I would most likely do that. But if you don't have the money right now, don't think that you have a bad processor. 2990WX works absolutely beautiful. So, when we look at a 64-core performance, overclocked on its own, just overclocked, not looking at normal base clocking. Of course, the 2990WX wins because it has more cores. But neither one of them have 64 cores. But when you test them, it's 9% faster. It gets about just a little under. It gets 398 more points. than the 3960X on benchmarking. But when you use multi-core mixed speed that's average, then the 3960 beats it just by a mere 3%, so, just under 200 points advantage on it. So that's what I'm thinking is pretty good. So overall, go for the 3960X if you have to for 1400 versus the 14 paying $72 more for. Yes, you're getting more cores, and yes, there's a 64 core overclock advantage, but literally on every other category, 3960, boom. The Zen 2 architecture has been blowing everything out of the water. Intel's coming back with Cooper Lake 14 nanometer, which they have been using for a while, but they're also coming with Comet Lake, or Comet Lake has already came out, and that was for the laptops, and that's already with 10th gen Intel, and that already came out with a 10 nanometer. So they're still competing. They're not 7 nanometers yet, like AMD is, but 10 nanometers is still a very big competitor, even though it's a 3 nanometer differential. And then Tiger Lake is the 10 nanometer one, which is going to come out for desktops to a company, Cooper Lake, which is the 14 nanometer. So now, if we're going to compare the 3960 with the 3970X, this is where everything gets a little hectic for the 3960, because when it comes to the three categories, gaming, desktop, and workstation, gaming is the same at 94, desktop is the same at 95, workstation is where it's at, because workstation, the 3970X, we already talked about, is at 215%. Now the 3960, if you remember, it's at 178%. So honestly, for that extra, like, let's say $550, I don't know if that's worth it if you're on a tighter budget. Now, when it comes to 1, 2, and 4 core, they're within the same range. 1 core, they scored the same. 2 core, they scored the same. 4 core, the 3960 beat it by 2 points, a mere 2 points. 8 core, 3960 beat it by 1 point. Overclocked, 3960 beat it by 1 point. Then on 2 cores, same thing, 1 point. 4 core, same points. And then 8 core beat it by 5 points. So the biggest differential right now is 5 points. It's the 3970X based off of popularity. It's the same popularity. Market share, it's got a 0.04% market share, which is a third percent higher. So it's 33% higher than the 0.03% on the 3960. Value, it's 10% better for the 3960X, and it's plus 20% cheaper. Both are the same age. But on 64 core overclocked and average speed, the 3970 has got it by 20%. So overall 20% on average. So speed rank, when you compare it to the hundreds of different processors that are on user benchmark, out of 373 user benchmarks on the 3960, its speed rank is 11th out of 1,206 processors. Now, out of 303, so exactly 70 less on the 3970X, it's 13th. So it's just 2 places behind. So right now in this category, for some reason, I feel like the 3960 is a better price point advantage than the 3970, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I mean, I know that kind of sounds weird, but I mean, when you compare it, it's just like, if you look at it yourself, then you'll understand what I'm talking about, because it just makes more sense to the naked eye than you listening to me talk to you about it. So let's see here. I can't find any benchmarks right now for the 3990X versus the 3970X, and I'm using Bing just because I have this cool tab that I have for the Baltimore Ravens, and it's forcing me to use Bing. So let me go on Google. I think I might have a benchmark here. Do I? Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so we got a benchmark. Cool. So they're both desktops, Zen 2 architecture. Q4 of 2019 is when the 3970 and 3960 were released. Then the Q1 of 2020, which of course literally 6 days ago is when this 3990X was released. Both have 7 nanometer lithography architecture, but the 3970X has 23.25 billion transistors, while the 3990X has about 39.5 billion. 32 cores up against 64 threads, 64 threads up against 128. When it comes to clocking, the 3970X has better clocking, and it is so much more like visible to see because like with base frequency, it's got it by an 800 megahertz advantage. It's sitting at 3.7, while the 3990 is sitting at 2.9. To give you a perspective of what 2.9 gigahertz is, that's the same as an i5 9400 and 9400F. Just to give you a perspective. But the 9400F, for not having multi-threading, but it still has 6 cores with 6 threads, for not having multi-threading, it's still a great processor, and that's what you need to keep in mind, because here it goes from 2.9 to 4.3, while the 3970 goes from 3.7 to 4.5. So it does beat it on frequency, but you're still getting more cores, more threads, and a bigger cache. And when I say bigger cache, you go from 128 megabytes on a 3970 to a 256 on a 3990X. And max RAM support, memory support, is half a terabyte at 512 with 3970 and a full 1024 on 3990X. They both support the same memory speed of DDR4 at 3200 megahertz, which is 3.2 gigahertz. Max PCIe lanes, both sitting at 64 with a TDP of both having 280, which the 2990WX, which was last year's king of workstations, was basically sitting at a 250. So you got a 30-watt increase. Neither one of them have an iGPU. Same socket at an STR4X4 socket. Now here's where the benchmarks come in, which I love looking at benchmarks because it's always fun to see how things compare. Now, when you use Cinebench is one of the best workstation test benchmark programs to use, I think, in my opinion. So when looking at Cinebench R15 single thread, 3970 beats it by 10 points, 210 to 200. Now when you use multi-thread, the 3990 actually like backhands the 3970 into another dimension, because the 3990 gets 10,320 points, while the 3970 only gets 7420. So it's a big increase. Now when you use Cinebench R20 single thread, the 3970X beating it again on that single thread performance, 520 to 495. Now, when it beats it, it's not really on big margins, but I mean, if you're using a single threaded application, I mean, come on, people, the 3970, that's what you need. If basically all the things that you're doing workstation wise is all single thread, don't spend the $4,000 on a 3990X. Literally at that point, you're just buying processors just to say you have the best processor. You're just wasting your time and money and efforts, because basically all you need is like a 3970X or even 3960 if you don't want to pay that extra like $550. Because people are rich nowadays, because everyone's famous for something, I guess. Anyways, like look at Cardi B. When I see her getting famous, I guess being famous doesn't take effort. Anyways, Cinebench R20 multi-thread. So the 3970 gets 16,990 points, while this one's a little bit closer. But when I say closer to you, it might not sound closer, but to me it is closer. The 3990X gets 24,640, so it beats it by about like less than 8,000 points. Geekbench, another one that I like to look at. Geekbench 4 single core. This is interesting. See another close one when it comes to single type things. So like single core, single thread. 3970X wins 5674 to 5640, and then Geekbench 4 multi-core. That one multi-core. That's interesting. The 3970X actually wins this one 69,621 to 67,512. And then you got Geekbench 5 single core, Geekbench 5 multi-core, which on Geekbench 5 single core, the 3970 wins, and then Geekbench 5 multi-core, the 3990X wins. So, but when you go to price / performance ratio, you get 27 points per dollar on the 3970X against the 3990X, which gets 17 points per dollar. Overall, right here, I mean, based off of what we're looking at, the 3970 beats the 3990, and that's kind of weird. Because when you look at the 3990X being a 64 core versus a 32, you would probably think that 3990X would beat it on everything, right? Well, apparently you're wrong. I guess. I don't know. Processors are weird sometimes. They kind of fluctuate weird. So we're gonna compare an Intel Core i9 10980XE, which is $1,100, which got released in Q4 last year. Compared to, they slashed the prices in half because last year's 9980XE was $2,000. Now this one's only $1,100. I'm so glad they slashed it in half because when you look at a 9980XE versus a 109080XE, the Intel basically was just like, hey, you wanna have an upgrade here? We'll give you an upgrade, but the upgrade's really crappy, and this is what you got to deal with. So I mean, the most embarrassing. If you look up on YouTube the 1090 and 10980XE and you look at all these big tech YouTube channels, you'll know exactly what I'm feeling, because the fact that you're gonna because when the what processors were that came out, I'm pretty sure it was the 3960 and 3970X. When those came out, Intel was like, "Oh crap! Let me just shoot this. Let me just throw this and see what happens." On the same day, basically within an hour of it happening, Intel releases it an hour earlier. You think, "Oh, they got ahead of the gun. Intel might win this one." No, no, they did not. No, they did not. They did not at all. It was sad. It was disappointing because the 9980XE is still $900, or is not $900, $1,900 compared to a 10980XE, which is only $1,100. So I don't know what the pricing, what they were thinking when it came to pricing, but either way, they were both releasing in Q4 a year apart. So when you look at user benchmark, I know I'm steering off from the 3990X, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm just talking about this. This is a good thing to compare to the 3990X. So when you look, are you kidding me? You would think that the 10980XE would go way above the standards of 9980XE. When you look at gaming desktop and workstation percentages, all three of them are within 4% of each other, and there's a 3% effective speed boost from the 10980XE, 3% on overall average user bench when it comes to 1, 2, 4, and 8 core mixed speed. And then when you look at it overclocked, same thing, 3%. Like, the only thing that the 10980 really beats the 9980XE at, it's just better value, bang for the buck. That's it. That's literally it. And the fact that it's much more recent. When you look at 64 core average and overclock, the overclock is only 2% better, 1% better on average for regular 64 core normal speeds. So it's like, what was the objective here for anything on the 10th gen LGA 2066 socket? What was the objective of anything? Because to give you an idea of how bad the 10980XE was and how much of an embarrassment and how much of a waste of time Intel was, how stupid they were to actually release this thing and not actually care enough about their consumers and their investors, and only care about themselves to the point where they're just going to release some terrible piece of PCB out into the world and just hoping that it works. That's embarrassing, and they deserve the criticism. They really do, because what they did made no sense, and it should have never happened. Because if you compare it literally to a 2990WX, last year's competitor, okay, or not a 2990. Jeez, what am I talking about? Not 2990. When you compare it to a 3960X, just that alone, not an i7 3960X, that is like 7 years old. Don't think I'm talking about that. The 3960X beats it. But I don't know what Intel's trying to go for, because when it comes to i9, because this is where I'm getting confused. Because if Ryzen 3 goes up against i3, Ryzen 5 goes up against i5, Ryzen 7 goes up against i7, Ryzen 9 goes up against i9, then the Threadripper and the server EPYC server processors from AMD are going up against Xeon server processors from Intel. So Intel's kind of been in a debacle right now, because it's just like, well, i9 is going up against whatchamacallit, i9, because i9, the 10980XE, their best workstation processor that they have when it comes to the core series, it's only 18 cores with 36 threads. It's like, are you joking? Are you joking? There's no way, right? Yeah, no, it's everywhere. Yeah, no, yeah. So like that whole release was just a waste of time. It was a bunch of BS that shouldn't have happened. It was dumb. It doesn't make any sense. It really did not make sense, and it never should have happened. But when looking at, let's switch it over to the 3990X. So I'm about to give you a lowdown here. So you got the 3990X. And of course, we know that that's 64 cores with 128 threads. We're going to compare it to an AMD EPYC 7742. Now, you must be wondering, what? You just said a whole bunch of mumbo-jumbo number crap that I don't understand. Yeah, that's understandable. Here's the thing. So what 7742 is a 64-core, 128 thread, just like the 3990X. It's a server processor from AMD. And you also have the 7702 and the 7702P, which the P means that it can only be one processor per motherboard. Because when it comes to server motherboards, you can have two processors in a single motherboard. And the 7702 allows you to have two, while the 7702P, which is cheaper, allows you to only have one. So it's just basically, I like what they did there, because it's just like only by the 7702 if you want to have two, and by the 7702P if you're on one a budget, or in two you only want one processor. You go to CPUmonkey.com and you look at the benchmarks here, because of course server processors, you'll be lucky to see a server processor that would even hit 4 gigahertz. Like this one, like the 3990X already goes from 2.9 to 4.3 gigahertz. That's on one core. On all cores, it goes to 3.2 gigahertz. The 7742 has a 2.25 gigahertz base frequency, and on one core it goes only to 3.4, with a turbo on all cores going to 2.8. So it's like, and you can't even overclock on the 7742, but you can on the Threadripper. They both have the same amount of cache at 256. Both based off of the Zen 2 7 nanometer lithography. The TDP is less on the EPYC at 225 instead of 280. PCIe lanes, the Threadripper only has 72, while the EPYC has 128. PCIe revision, it's of course PCIe Gen 4. Both ECC support 8 memory channels on the EPYC, only 4 on the 3990X. But when you look here on Cinebench R20 single core, Threadripper wins. Cinebench R20 multi-core, Threadripper wins. Cinebench R15 single core, Threadripper wins. It wins on the same thing multi-core. When you use estimated results for Passmark CPU benchmark, that's the only thing that EPYC wins on, is estimated benchmarks that we don't even know yet. Yeah, so it's like it's benchmarks we're not even like capable of understanding it. It's not even, we don't even know. So it's insane what the Ryzen Threadripper 3990X is actually capable of doing. But I want to take a short break here. After the break, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about an Intel processor that is so expensive that when you go into the Intel website, it doesn't even tell you the price. And I'm going to tell you exactly what the estimated price is that it can go around for. And this processor is literally capable of wiping out an entire ecosystem. So yeah, so Valentine's Day is going to get bloody when it comes to processors. So a quick word from our sponsor. Okay, so here we are again, and as I promised, I was going to talk about the processor, and that mystery processor is the Intel Xeon Platinum 9282. Is 56 cores, 112 threads, and is estimated to be around 50 grand. 50 grand. Who pays 50 grand for a processor that has 8 cores less than a 4 grand processor? Yes, I know 4 grand is still expensive. Yes, we all know that. That is like very expensive. Okay, a homeless man dreams of getting 4 grand. Okay, but I know that. But when you compare 4 grand to 50 grand, I mean, come on, $46,000, $1,000 cheaper for. I mean, you at first glance, if you were like me, who when I first saw this, I was just like, well, this is pretty dumb. Who would actually pay 50 grand for this? There is strong reason to pay 50 grand for this. And what I mean by that is the fact that this thing on its own just one beats the 7742. Remember, 64 cores, 128 threads, by 28% speed wise. And when I first saw this article, I'm gonna look this article up again. When I first saw this article, I was like, there's no way. That makes little sense to me at all, because the 7742, of course, I mean, it has higher threads, better lithography by 7 meters. So I mean, I was pretty naive, if I'm gonna be quite honest with you, when I first saw this. So trust me, I was pretty confused. Oh, I can't find the article right now, but as we see, it's new. It's new. It's only 77 megabytes of cache compared to 256 from the 7742. And it's 14 nanometers from Q2 2019, so it's fairly new. 2.6 to 3.8 gigahertz on speed. 400 watt TDP. So that's pretty insane. 12 memory channels compared to 8 from the 7742. You could have up to 2 CPUs in a single thing. So in a single motherboard. So when it comes to memory types, of course, it's DDR4, but it's not as fast at 3200 megahertz as 3200 megahertz. It's at 2933, but 2933 is still a pretty good speed. So it's like when you look at this, it's just like, why? No way. People's gonna pay us 50 grand. Because when you look, I'm just gonna look up. I don't know. Let's look up a very popular processor. An i9 9900 KF. Very popular. So when you look on the Intel website, you scroll down a bit, it'll tell you the price. Yeah, see, it says recommended customer price between $463 and $474. I recommend this processor a lot, not the 9900K. The only difference between that and the F is the F is a little bit cheaper because it doesn't have integrated graphics, the UHD 630 graphics, and plus it doesn't come in as cool of a case. That's it. But the 9900KF is the best value. There's also the 9900, 9900T, which the T means that it's power optimized, which means that it's cheaper because the clocking isn't as good. And then you got the 9900KS, which is basically the 9900K and KF, but it overclocks to 5 gigahertz on all cores, contrary to just a single core. But anyways, getting off topic. But yeah, it tells you the recommended customer price, or what the price of they know, or it would just tell you if it's discontinued or not. This doesn't even tell you. It doesn't even tell you. So if you go on to Google and you look up Xeon Platinum 9282 price, literally what it tells you, first thing, one of the first things, it tells you that it's recommended, that it's estimated to cost anywhere up to 50 grand. And Yeah, don't pay 50 grand for that unless you're actually Elon Musk. Um, yeah, unless you're Elon Musk or like, I don't know, Jeff Bezos. Yeah, unless you're Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, don't even contemplate that. If you want a Xeon, get like one of those cheaper Xeons. Like I like this one Xeon that has integrated graphics, 4 cores with multi-threading. It's 8 threads. It's only about 125 bucks. I'm like, all right, that's a nice, like standard budget, cheaper server. It'll work perfectly fine because it utilizes DDR4 and it's on the LG 1151 socket. So it's like whatever. Um, yeah. So yeah, that's just an insane processor. Um, yeah, so of course it's going to wipe out the 3990X. So I'm very curious to see how because right now, as it stands, the Platinum 9282 is the processor, the best processor in the world as of this recording. So, so when you compare, like I'm going to compare, I use userbenchmark.com. I'm going to compare the top Ryzen non-Threadripper series processor, which is the Ryzen 9 3950X, 16 cores, 32 threads. I'm going to compare that to a 3970X, so 3950 Intel Celeron G3950. Yeah, okay, bud. So this actually went down 30 bucks. It was 750 bucks. Now it's 720. So if you want to take a chance at that, definitely do it. It's good on gaming, desktop, and workstation. Workstation on here, it's getting 136%. Desktop and gaming, it's at 94%. Which, funny enough, it beats the i9 10980 XE on all that. Average user benchmark on 1, 2, 4, and 8 average speed cores beats that. The only thing that doesn't beat the 10980 Xeon is just overclocked 1, 2, 4, and 8 cores. So it's just 3950X still beats the 10980X. It's 10980XE. So we're going to compare this to a 3970X, not the i7, but the Threadripper. And when you compare this, they're basically the same thing. Gaming is both the same at 94%. Desktop 3970X wins by 1% in 95 instead of 94. Workstation, of course, it wins 215 to 136, but both are really actually amazing. So yeah, I mean, 39. I want to compare this. Hold on, let me Google this real quick here. I had a whole bunch of tabs saved last night. I was doing research before I did this podcast just so I knew the lowdown on this. So 3990X versus 3950X. I just want to get an idea. I didn't look at this one. Not the 3900X. I'm not getting any benchmarks, but my guess is that the 3990X would actually win that one. So yeah, the 3990X, when you look at it from a non-server workstation standpoint, it's the best on the market. It's the best processor on the market right now, in my opinion. Well, honestly, I feel like that's a fact. There's no way that's opinionated. That is a fact because statistics, if you look at the statistics, you can't deny that unless you're literally the CEO. Because Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD, she knows it. Intel probably knows it, but they just won't admit it because of obvious reasons, because they're all childish. But yeah, but that's that. 3990X, amazing. But for right now, if you want a budget Threadripper, the first and second gen Threadrippers, they were on a different socket. They were on the TR4. This one's on the TRX4 socket. Different chipset too. It went from X399 chipset to the TRX40 chipset. So different chipset, different socket for third gen. But if you want a nice TR4 socket, X399 chipset Threadripper, I recommend the cheapest one, which is the Threadripper 1900X, 8 cores, 16 threads. It's about 250 bucks. So yeah, if you want a Threadripper build, Of course, if you want something better, then go with like a Ryzen 9 3900X or even a Ryzen 7 like 3700X, 3800X, just for as a better workstation. But if you want a Threadripper, they go for 1900X. The best value one would be 1920X, and you also have 1950, and then the 2920, 2950, 2990, and then you have 3960, 3970, and 3990X. And that's it for Threadripper. This has been the Local Cast podcast episode trace. Thanks for sticking around. It means a lot to me. Tune in tomorrow for the last podcast of the week. My schedule, as we all know now, I explained it back in episode 1, is I do 2 podcast days in a row. And I take a break one day, and then I do 2 more. And so tomorrow's going to be the last one of the week, and I'll revamp it back up on Sunday. So I'll see you tomorrow, and after that, I'll see you on Sunday. So thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to check me out on all of the different streaming platforms that I am on. So, for example, we got Spotify, Google Podcasts, Beaker, Radio Public, of course, Anchor.fm, which is the second best place to look to view, just because I feel like the best place to view it would be Spotify, because just that's out of opinion. So out of the 6 platforms that I am on, Anchor.fm, Spotify, Beaker, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, which Pocket Casts I literally just got on, which about an hour and a half ago of this recording. I just got an email right before this, and I was excited. I was like, cool, another one. Radio Public. One that we're still waiting on is Apple Podcast, but that should be coming in within the next month because, of course, they're Apple. You got Castbox, Overcast, and Stitcher are still pending as well, so I only have 4 left. Hopefully, by the end of next month, I'll be at all 10 platforms, and I'll be A-okay. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow with some album reviews. I'm going to be taking 2 of my own, one from like rock, one that came out back in January from a band I like that I've liked since like 2013. Me and my brother, we go way back with that band, and then also Grandmaster Flash, a rapper from the 80s. We're going to be comparing that to 2 mystery albums that I got ideas from the people who contribute to this podcast, and they told me got a lot of different ideas, but I want to compare a rap album and more of a pop album to a rock and an 80s rap album that I like. And so we're going to see how that goes with my friend Jada. So we're gonna see how that goes. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.